I am Anna Seawald, and this is Authentic Parenting, a podcast about growing ourselves while raising our children. I'm a psychologist, educator, and parent coach. My mission is to end violence against children. Through my work and this podcast, I help parents break generational cycles of trauma, reconnect with their authentic selves, and raise emotionally healthy children. Together, we've built a global community of conscious parents who want something different for the next generation. Join us as we create a more peaceful, kind, and compassionate world. Today, discovering the transformative power of walking.
I'm Dr. Melissa McDowell, a physical therapist with over 25 years of experience. I'm the co-author of the book Walk. I have a clinical practice in Bozeman, Montana, where I treat mostly lower extremity injuries. I've been university faculty. I work in education for adults, and I'm very excited to be here today.
Hi, my name is Dr. Courtney Conley, and I am the founder of Gait Happens, which is an online educational platform. We teach both nationally and internationally. I am the co-author of Walk. I have a clinical practice here in Evergreen, Colorado that I've been seeing specifically foot and ankle patients now for close to 25 years. And I also am very excited to be here.
Today's episode is about something we do every day. Well, most of us. It's one of the very first milestones in life, and yet most of us completely take it for granted. Walking. Are you a walker? I am definitely a big walker. I walk daily, multiple times a day, irregardless of weather circumstances. According to today's guests, Dr. Courtney Connolly and Dr. Melissa McDowell, walking isn't just good for you, it may actually be as essential as sleep and breathing. They even call it the sixth vital sign. In this conversation, we explore how walking can reduce pain in your knees, hips, and back, support brain health, and even increase longevity, sometimes with far fewer steps than you think. We bust myths like 10,000 step rule, talk about how to strengthen your body through walking, weight loss and walking, and dive into what your feet really need. We talk about proper footwear. In fact, I bring 4 pairs of shoes. I show them on the screen and they analyze for me and they tell me which ones are good, which ones are not so good. It's fascinating. After this conversation, I got rid of my black sneakers and purchased barefoot sneakers, and my feet are happier, and I noticed a difference. We also explore your signature walk, your walking mindset, and how something as simple as daily walk can transform not just your physical health, but your mental health, your relationships, and your overall well-being. This is why we're talking about walking on this podcast. This episode is fun, it's practical, and eye-opening. I absolutely love this conversation. I found it extremely helpful, and I love the passion that these 2 women brought to the show. Be sure to check out their new book called Walk. Rediscover the most natural way to boost your health and longevity one step at a time. My hope is that this episode inspires you to rediscover the most natural way to support your health and longevity one step at a time. And before you go, have you caught up on the summer episodes so far? If not, go back and check them out. There is so much goodness waiting for you there. We talked about how to heal a dysregulated nervous system, rediscovering play as an adult, how self-help becomes harmful, why you should stop trying to heal all your traumas, and more. And now, please enjoy, and thank you for listening. And share this episode with someone you love. All right, Melissa and Courtney, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I love having two guests on the show. And we have the beginning of the podcast, start with the rapid fire questions. You are both going to get some questions and give me one word or yes or no answers. So this one is for Courtney.
Okay.
Is walking as important as sleeping and breathing?
Absolutely. 100% yes.
Melissa, is walking considered an exercise?
No.
Courtney, do we need to get 10,000 steps per day?
We do not.
Melissa, do we need to walk every day or just a few times a week is enough?
Every day.
Courtney, is it true that adding 500 steps per day can decrease your risk of death by 7%?
It sure is.
Melissa, is it true that your falling risk and overall longevity can be measured by foot health?
It can.
And Courtney, can walking reduce cognitive decline and dementia?
Absolutely.
And the last two questions. Melissa, is walking speed a wellness indicator?
Yes, it is.
Can walking help with weight loss, Courtney?
Yes, it can.
Okay, you did well. You passed the test. So I want to begin this interview by asking you to highlight the physical and mental health benefits of walking. Whoever wants to take it.
When you look at walking as a core biological input to our systems, I think it starts to take on a different tone. When we have that low to moderate intensity activity that we do every single day, it is designed to stimulate all of the systems in our body. So walking stimulates our cardiovascular system, our metabolic system, our nervous system. And so by doing this activity daily, it's basically a stimulus for every system in our body to function optimally. So it's not only contributing to our physical health, but it is a factor and a foundation on improving our mental and emotional well-being.
The part that's exciting about the psychological health and mental well-being is that walking helps to boost your cerebral blood flow. We're getting wonderful hormones to our brain. We're increasing tissue temperature. We're releasing dopamine and serotonin, the things that make us feel good. We know that even short walks can boost your mood, improve your cognitive clarity, and help with creativity. So as Courtney mentioned, the physiological effects are great, and so are the psychological effects.
Yeah, there was even a part about cancer risk, bone health, right? Sleep, cognitive decline and dementia, longevity. Could you talk about some of those?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing when you think about all of those things that you just mentioned there was looking at the step count where you start to benefit from walking. So when we look at step count, for example, when you get to 3,800 steps per day, you can reduce your risks of dementia by 25%. So for those of, the listeners who are already aware of their step count, 3,800 steps is not, we're not talking 10,000 steps here. We're talking less than 5,000 steps per day. When you get into the range of 5,000 steps per day, now this is when you start to see an 11% reduction in certain types of cancers. You see a reduction in the signs and symptoms of depression. I think this is very exciting because for physicians that treat any type of mental or emotional disorders, putting walking on every prescription pad should be mandatory, because we see this in the science and in the research that just getting 5,000 steps per day can really start to have a benefit on your mental health. When you jump those numbers up to 7,000 steps, now we have a reduction of 16% in certain types of cancers, and we reduce our risks of getting depression. So there's a lot of longevity benefits that happen in these certain step ranges.
Where does that number 10,000 steps come from? Because everybody you talk to is like, I have to put my steps in. I actually hate thinking about walking that way because it takes the joy and fun out of it. And it's like they're just getting their steps. And it's like enjoy this activity for its full benefit, not just getting your steps. I have a neighbor who is like, sees me every day. He's like, I'm getting my 10,000 steps. I'm like, yay, you go, man. But where does this number come from? Is it
It
even
is one of the
important? Yeah.
it is one of the myths that we bust very early on in the book. So the good news for the listeners out there who may feel like 10,000 steps is hard to attain or it feels like too big of a goal. The good news is this is a hangover from a 1960s Japanese pedometer marketing campaign. And the 1960s Olympics were in Tokyo, and a pedometer, the old school kind that you like clip on your belt and it clicks every time you take a step, those devices mechanically could only go up to 10,000 and then they reset back to zero. And so the name of the device was actually the 10,000 step meter. And so we are so excited to share that information and unlock that for individuals that 10,000 is actually arbitrary. There are health benefits in the 8,500, 9,800 range for some specific diagnoses. But as Courtney just mentioned, we like to think of this like an a la carte menu. If you're someone who has a family history of dementia, there are certain step counts you need to be aware of. If you've got higher cancer risk, again, specific step counts are really able to be customized for what's important in your life. And so with that, I think it is our time to sort of shed the 10,000 step number and move to numbers that are more approachable for most individuals.
And I also want to ask you another thing. I have a friend who just walks once a day, and the rest of the day, obviously, our modern lifestyle is very sedentary. We sit at the computer, we drive everywhere. And I always have an argument with her. I'm like, no, like walking once a day is not enough. Like, you have to constantly move throughout the day. What can you say about that? Like, or going to the gym a little bit, 40 minutes a day and being sedentary the rest of the day?
When you look at activity throughout the day, Melissa and I are always talking about this with our patients because we'll have patients that will do just that. They'll want to get their workouts in the morning, so they'll get their strength workout in and they'll do their hour workout and then they'll go to work for the rest of the day and sit for 8 to 9 hours a day. That is still considered a sedentary lifestyle. One of the things we've done in the book is introduce something called a movement snack. And this is for exactly those people that find themselves sitting at a desk, for example, for the majority of the day. Our systems thrive on movement. If you've noticed that when you're sitting and you start to get fidgety or you start moving around in your chair, that's your body basically screaming for movement. It's saying, hey, you got to get up and move around. And it is that stimulus of motion that decreases inflammation in our bodies. It improves our mobility. It decreases pain. So when we talk about incorporating something like a micro walk, which is a 5-minute walk, that can be considered a movement snack. So if you're getting your workout in the morning, you could, have these little 5-minute stints of walking throughout the day. Or we have a menu of different options for you if you can't get outside. But that kind of introduction to movement throughout the day is very important for our bodies to sustain wellness.
Is there a difference between walking outside or walking indoors?
There is, and we are advocates of walking however you can get it done. So if you live in a place that's unsafe or the weather is terrible and all you have access to is a treadmill or an indoor walking space, I would much rather you walk indoors than not walk at all. In fact, I'm currently in a treatment room at my office. If I was in a desperate situation, I could walk little tiny laps in here because you're still getting that rhythmic motion. So a treadmill is great. A nice thing about a treadmill too is for those who are returning to walking after injury, surgery, maybe having a new baby, there's, physical restrictions, something along those lines. A treadmill has greater cushion than walking outdoors because of the belt and the springs. We can also control the speed and you can hold on to the handrails if you're needing some additional support. So inside is better than nothing. There is really wonderful data about the boost you get from walking outdoors, getting red light through the sun's rays into your eyes, being able to hear the sounds of nature if you're in a place where you can hear birds chirping or, feel the breeze. Those outdoor environments do definitely have other cognitive benefits and psychological benefits. but treadmill's better than nothing if that's all you have.
You had asked about, I'm probably jumping the gun here, Anna, but you had mentioned about weight loss. And in the book, we talk about training in zone 2, which is getting your heart rate to a certain level that burns fat. That is an environment that can be done, I think, a little bit easier on a treadmill, because you can monitor your heart rate, control either the incline or the speed, so that you can maintain your heart rate zone in that zone 2 and in a controlled environment. I think that gets a little bit difficult outside. So again, it depends on what your goals are and what you're trying to do. But there are benefits, I think, to both, in the treadmill being inside and then also outside.
Yeah. Thank you for that. What gets in the way of walking? Why do people don't walk as often as they should, according to your book?
I'll take one of them, my obsession. 1 out of 3 people over the age of 45 have foot pain. So in my clinic, I see specifically foot and ankle patients, and I've been doing so for 20 plus years. I will tell you that there is musculoskeletal diagnosis that will stop someone in their tracks from walking outside of foot pain. It's one of those things that unless you've experienced it, you can't quite realize how much it will deter your movement. So that's one of the things we really wanted to educate on, is being proactive in regards to your foot health. So pain in general is something that will stop someone from walking. And then unfortunately, when we stop moving and we stop walking, there is that correlation between lack of movement and depression. And so then it becomes this cyclical kind of thing that we have to really combat outside of just a musculoskeletal diagnosis. It then becomes this layered mental and emotional challenge as well. So I think pain is a very big factor.
And another factor I'd like to bring up is time. So Courtney and I are both moms. We are busy. We have partners. We have practices. We have dogs, all the things that many of the listeners probably have as well that are, asking for your time. And time is a special resource, and it's one of the resources you can't get back and you can't buy more of. So in our book, we have an entire chapter dedicated to how do you carve out the time to do this. And I love how you mentioned, Anna, that some individuals who think you have to do all the walking in one chunk, or, it all has to be together. We created a bunch of different strategies, such as swapping an activity that perhaps is not serving you, like doom scrolling or watching television, with a walk, right? So if you are able to do an assessment and see how you're spending your time, when people actually sit back and objectively look at how they're spending their day, we think there's a lot of secret little windows where you could swap an activity for a walk. There's another one that's another favorite of mine of a way to carve out time, which is called stacking. And stacking is taking a walk and doing something else as well. A perfect example is a phone call. So if you're calling a loved one, or if you're in a professional environment where it's appropriate to do a walk and talk meeting, these are ways that you can sprinkle in little more micro walks or even bigger walks throughout your day. As you mentioned, doing it intermittently, snacking on not walking. And so as Courtney mentioned, pain is a big one. And I think time is another barrier for people that we are definitely providing solutions for in the book.
And our lifestyle, right? At least in the United States, I was just in Miami for spring break, and that's not a walkable city. Where not everywhere we live, we can easily step outside and walk. Some neighborhoods don't even have sidewalks. I'm very lucky that I live in a neighborhood that has, a towpath and walking trails and things like that. So I have like 4 or 5 walking paths that I take every day and walk on. But our lifestyle is another factor. We drive everywhere. We are so comfy. We order food from our couch and from our sitting position. Everything gets delivered, right? You don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore. Some of the activities that we used to do, maybe walk, it's becoming less and less. I think that's another factor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have to be very cognizant. Mm-hmm. With the conveniences of modern society, it's very easy to get through your day. And at the end of the day, if you were monitoring your step count and be like, man, I barely moved today. So I think we really need to be cognizant of finding time in little spaces to get some of those steps in. I spend a lot of my time in New York as well. And it's always very interesting to me when I get off the subway, because there will be a line of people trying to get up the escalator and nobody's taking the stairs. And it's like, it's those little opportunities that I think if we just pay attention to, we'll be able to get in what we call ambient steps. So it's not necessarily you're taking an intentional walk, but you're still getting activity and you're still getting your steps in by finding these little windows of opportunities to move.
Yeah, I loved reading about how we all have a signature way of walking. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, there's a little video that I love watching, and it's of this little boy. And he's probably about 4 years old, and he's walking with his hands behind his back. And you could see the mom, and she, they go in to explain that they're trying to figure out, like, is there something wrong? Is it some type of neurological development issue? And then they show the video that he spends a lot of time with his grandfather. And his grandfather has always walked with his hands behind his back. And I just thought that was so cute and interesting that our gait is so influenced by what we see, what traumas we've experienced, what injuries we've had, our expressions. So if we're sad, if we're happy, if we're excited, all of those things kind of define our gait signature. So what we wanted to discuss in the book is that we're not trying to get everybody to walk the same, to walk like a soldier. You want to bring that uniqueness to everyone's walking gait, but what you do want to create is walking efficiency. Because as Homo sapiens, as human beings, we were designed to walk for very long periods of time, upright and balanced. And so that was our intention with teaching about gait, is how do we create an efficient walking gait without taking away, the uniqueness of someone's signature.
So there is no right or wrong way of walking, or there is perhaps inefficient way of walk. How might you judge that? How would that look like, the inefficient way of walking?
If you ever sit with us in an airport, that's what we're doing. And we do that with love. So if you ever see us in an airport, please come say hi. But we are busy watching everyone walk and move.
I love that.
As a physical therapist and a chiropractor, that's what we're trained in and what we're passionate about. I was actually asked this on another podcast earlier today. And the part that's really fun is thinking about efficiency and how efficiency can be very consistent person to person to person. So I'm about 3 or 4 inches taller than Courtney. And if we're walking together, I either have to walk a little slower or she has to walk a little faster because our bones are just different lengths, right? But if you saw the two of us walking, I would imagine that even a lay person or someone who's not trained in gait analysis would not think our walk is necessarily remarkable. But even those of us who are not trained in gait analysis, you can definitely pick out when someone has an abnormality in their walk. If you're in an airport or a public place, a mall, without being creepy, just gently sort of observe the people walking around you. Do you see someone whose shoulders tip to the side? Do you see someone who looks like they have a little bit of a gallop? Could you maybe hear their foot scuffing as they walk past you? Those are examples of gait inefficiencies. And as trained clinicians, we're able to diagnose what's going on, make a remediation plan, give people exercises, assess maybe if they've got a mobility or a strength or a leg length difference or something like that. But an average person can usually recognize if something is inefficient. And with that, that becomes opportunity because the more balanced and efficient you are, the less likely it is that you'll have problems.
Yeah, you had some exercises, self-assessments in the book, the calf strength or balance on one foot or things of that nature. I was trying to do and determine whether I am, healthy for my age and I'm able to do some of the things I'm able to do. Some of them probably I'm doing wrong. Could you perhaps share something for the listener? Maybe they can try now if they are in a safe place to maybe to determine something for their foot health or their balance or mobility?
I think balance is a big one. So maybe that'll be an easy one for people at home to try. I think we forget that when you are walking, you're in single limb support. So one foot is on the ground for 40% of your gait cycle. So it is a balance activity. So if everybody at home wants to take their shoes off, we'll do this barefoot. And what you want to do is we'll start with the right side, and you'll go ahead and put your right foot on the ground. And I want you to just first take note of what you feel. So the foot, when we're describing the foot, it's a tripod.
I love how Melissa is trying to demonstrate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you have your foot on the ground, you should feel the ball of your big toe, the ball of your little toe, and the center of the heel. So if you are at home doing this, you would press your foot into the floor. You want to create some stiffness and see if you can balance for 10 to 15 seconds. For
the record, I'm not holding on to the wall. My hands are free.
Yes. You should be able to do this and not wobble around too much. Okay, we should be pretty stable on one foot. For people who have had ankle sprains, if you are at home and have bunions, so a bump on the inside of the big toe, if you have hammer toes or a clawing of your toes, all of these things can compromise our ability to balance. And so that's what we wanted to dissect in the book. Do you have these things? If you do, are they painful? And if they aren't, still be aware of them so we can be proactive with it. And then you always want to look side to side. Is my balance on my right side comparable to what's happening on my left side? And the beautiful thing about these assessments in the book is they can then become treatment. So if you can't do something, just start practicing that. And so a balance drill for balancing for 10 to 15 seconds could then become your movement snack throughout the day, for example. So those are little things that you can do to incorporate ways to improve not only your walking gait efficiency, but your strength and mobility.
Since I read your book, I tried to incorporate this balancing one foot and then moving on to the next one. And I noticed that it has increased. I can almost stand 1 minute on one foot now. While I'm making my coffee, while I'm waiting,
yes.
I'm standing. I use opportunities throughout the day. And I'm like, wow, this is it wasn't like I was wobbly at first, like I was trying to balance. And now I can just be a lot sturdier. Since, it's been a couple of weeks I'm practicing this, I notice a big difference.
Yeah, I think what you said there, I loved. Finding little pieces or time throughout the day. I'll talk to my daughter. I don't know if she does it or not, but I'm like, Addie, this is a great time for you to balance when you're brushing your teeth. You balance on one foot for a minute, then you balance on the other foot for a minute. But what you'll feel as you start to balance, when you get into that 60-second range, if you are barefoot with your foot on the ground, you should notice that your foot is starting to fatigue a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing.
Oh, okay.
We want the foot to engage the ground. So you want your foot to be splayed. When you balance barefoot, that big toe, he's a very big player in your stability and in your balance. So I love hearing that when you start to hit to those 60-second marks, because you're getting some very good engagement of the musculature of the foot.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. The foot health part of your book was incredibly eye-opening, informative. I'm going to go back to it again and again and read. There's so many exercises. Some of them I can't do, like the big toe. Can you move the big toe separate from the other toes and do this? The credit card test with your big toe. Some of them are very challenging, I have to admit.
They're not designed to be discouraging. And the reason that we included those is they are the type of things that a clinician would do with you in the clinic. And so the purpose is for you to sort of be your own chiropractor, physical therapist, be your own detective, and assess. And as Courtney mentioned with the balance testing, we're comparing side to side. So if you maybe have had an old injury or an old surgery or something on one side, you may notice it's harder to lift big toe there, and the other side it might be easier. Again, that should translate to just some of those little snacks that you can play with throughout the day. Our assessments are in three different categories. We have foot awareness, we have mobility, and we have strength. And what you'll find as you play with those different assessments is you might be amazing on the strength ones, but as you mentioned, Anna, really struggle with lifting up that big toe. When I started doing these, I could not lift big toe versus the four toes. And it's from a history of being a runner and wearing narrow toe box shoes. And so it took me some time to play with it. And I think it's part of the enjoyment of sort of being motivated to improve yourself is you start to see improvement. You're like, oh, I need to keep practicing. So they're definitely designed to be something that a lot of us won't be good at to start with. And it is eye-opening. And then it becomes something fun to improve on.
I'm very proud to say Melissa's feet she is now crushing all of those exercises. They're very, very strong.
What could you say about those rocking, the vests that people wear, heavy weighted vests for walking? What is that for us? Is it good? Do we all have to try that? Or is it part of like strength training, zone 2 cardio?
I think, this is an analogy we use. You have to walk before you can run. When you're walking, you are putting about 2 to 3 times your body weight through your foot, for example.
Oh, wow.
So that's without adding any weight at all. So before we encourage people to kind of start adding weight and start adding loads, you should be comfortable. You should be hitting a certain step count. You should be able to walk at a certain pace, being able to have a nice brisk pace when you walk. And then when those things are comfortable and you want to start challenging your system, then yes, weighted walking can be very beneficial because you're adding more loads. So what we definitely want to encourage is that you have the right equipment. That's important. I made that mistake early on in my weighted walking career by putting a kettlebell in my backpack, which was not advised. But they now have very nice packs that you can utilize. Keep in mind, this is going to be more weight on your body. So it should be more challenging. It should be more challenging to push through your foot. But when you add this weight, it's an additional stimulus. So it can increase your heart rate, if that's what you're looking for. It can increase calorie burn, if that's what you're looking for. So there are significant benefits to amping things up. You just want to make sure that before you do those things, that you're comfortable with, like I said, getting a certain step count, getting a certain pace.
Is it also good for foot strength?
Absolutely. I think the appropriate footwear is very important with that conversation. When we talk about minimal footwear, so minimal footwear is a shoe that has a wide toe box, a zero drop, so your heel and toe sit on the same plane, and the shoe is very flexible, so your foot can feel the ground. There is research that says if you just were to wear minimal footwear for 6 months, you can increase the strength of your feet by 60%.
Wow.
That's a lot. So we like to think of wearing minimal footwear almost as an exercise for your feet. So when you want to think about that environment, and if you were to add a weighted pack to that, that's going to be very, very challenging for you. So you have to really consider where you are. I would almost encourage people to walk in minimal footwear with no weighted vest. And just start small. Start with like 5 minutes. Then you can start to increase your time. You will notice that your foot might fatigue or your calf might fatigue. So once you get comfortable in that environment, you can either add weight or wear a shoe that gives you a little more assistance when you're weighted walking.
I'm glad you are opening up the topic about footwear because I brought props with me and I have
great.
4 pairs
we
of
love
shoes.
Props.
4 pairs of shoes, and I'm going to ask you about those shoes. And there's one particular shoe when I recently noticed I have pain on my left hip. And I'm like, wait, is this the shoe that's doing this? I'm going to show you my shoes. So this is a shoe that I love to wear on a daily basis. I don't know if this is considered minimal. How would you assess this shoe?
Well,
We
can
would
you?
call that a traditional shoe.
A
So a
traditional
minimal
shoe.
shoe has very specific criteria.
Mm-hmm.
One is a wide toe box,
Mm-hmm.
and that shoe does not have a wide toe box. A wide toe box looks like this. So as
Yes.
you can see, if we compare the toe box of my
Yes.
shoe to yours, yours has a tapered toe box. This has an anatomical toe box. So this is matching the widest part of my foot should be my toes. That shoe does have what looks like zero drop, so it looks like it's flat. And then are you able to twist it like you're wringing out a towel?
Yes.
So it does meet that criteria, but we would
Yeah.
not consider that a minimal shoe because it has a narrow toe box.
I like this shoe because of that flexibility and because it's very flat to the ground. I love to feel the ground when I'm walking. It makes me more of a mindful, cautious walker. I pay more attention as opposed to when you wear like cushiony shoes. I hate those because I feel like I'm falling, I'm on air. I don't like the feeling that it gives me.
Yeah, that you're exactly right with that. There's a reason our feet want to feel the ground.
Like this shoe, this is my daughter's, this is not mine. The Hoka sneakers, for example.
Yes.
I
That's a
would
traditional shoe.
That's a tradition.
That,
I would never wear this. Like this is doesn't feel good for me. This kind of like this
that's
bottom.
one of those shoes that we like to have the conversation of trade-offs. Because when people put that shoe on with a lot of cushion, their immediate reaction is going to be, this feels really comfortable. I'm getting a lot of protection. There's always a trade-off. In just like you had mentioned, your foot likes to feel the ground because it's giving you feedback. It's giving you information on where your body should be. Can I feel the ground? Can I gather information to help me stay upright and balanced? When you have a shoe that has that much cushion on it, you interfere with what your foot feels. So that can be a problem for balance, for strike patterns when we walk. So there is a time and a place, but with that type of footwear, you really need to be aware that that is a challenging environment to improve things like balance. And it can also be a challenging environment if fall risk is a concern.
Okay, this is the shoe that gives me hip pain. It's just a Nike sneaker, a slip on because it's easy to put on and I want it to be easy, but it's just not comfortable. So,
Let me
I
ask a
think
question.
Yes.
Do you
yes.
have both of those Nike shoes? Do you
Yes.
have the full pair with you? Can you hold them up so we can see
Oh, I
the
don't have
sole of the shoe like
I don't
this?
have the
Oh,
second
okay,
one
but
here. I
just
just
go ahead and hold that one up and keep it held up there for us.
yeah.
So one of the things that we would be able to assess
Uh-huh.
is your wear pattern on the bottom of the shoe.
Yeah.
And if you are only getting pain on one side, one of the first things we would do is we would say, okay, are we able to be detectives? Look at the bottom of the shoe and see if you're landing in a way that is imbalanced or different compared to your other side. So that'd be one question I would ask. The second thing I would note is that has a very tapered toe box. So your toes are kind of getting squished together. They're not able to splay, which activates more of the musculature in your foot and allows your foot to be in a more biomechanically neutral position. And then the final question is there is research that indicates over 60% of adults are wearing the wrong size shoe. And so, do you know what size do you typically wear, Anna?
7.5.
And have you been a 7.5 since high school, middle school,
No,
college?
it was 7 and like after pregnancy and like I'm 52 now. So now it's a little, I think a wider foot or just different foot, right? Body
Mhm.
has changed. So it's 7.5
Yes.
now.
Okay. So that's great. We hear from a lot of people. I've been the same size since high school.
No, I'm not the
So,
same size. Yeah.
okay. So it's good that you've noticed that you had a change since earlier in life. What I would encourage you to do though is if you have a specific pair of shoes that's causing pain up the chain, most likely it's either making it difficult for you to walk, you have an imbalanced walking pattern side to side, or it could be a length issue within the shoe because not every 7.5 brand to brand to brand to brand
Yeah.
is going to be the same. They're all made on different molds. And so a 7.5 in a Nike could very well be too short or too long for you versus a 7.5 in that Adidas shoe that you picked up. Anytime I have a patient or client who says a shoe causes them pain, you know what I tell them to do with the shoe?
Throw away, right?
Put it in the closet.
Yes. Oh,
Donate it
good.
to somebody because there's clearly a mismatch between the
Yeah.
tool and the job. And so unfortunately, it's a bit of a sunken cost because you purchased some at some point. But if you have a footwear that is causing pain, I highly recommend to stop wearing it and to find an alternative shoe for that job.
Okay, well, I'm gonna show you the last shoe, which is my favorite, and I hope you might approve the Birkenstocks. Would you approve of this because it has the white toe
Yeah,
button?
so this is one of those shoes when we talk about the shoe spectrum. So there are some positives to that shoe. It does have the wide toe box. A lot of our patients that have foot pain tend to love a Birkenstock because if you were to take that Birkenstock and try to bend it, can you bend it?
Not really.
The Birkenstocks are designed to be stiff.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Which, if someone has pain in their foot, let's say they have a big toe that is painful, or they have a heel pain, or they have some type of symptom in their foot, that Birkenstock can be very helpful because it's stiff. So when they go to move, it's not allowing their joints to go through certain ranges of motion. So that's when that shoe can be beneficial. I know I have a lot of patients when they go to Europe and you're walking on cobblestone for long periods of time. Birkenstock sandal, great option. But keep in mind that shoe does prevent some of the natural ranges of motion in our foot. So we just want to be able to say, hey, wear that shoe sometimes, but then also have another sandal in your repertoire that might move a little bit better or that might have a little bit more flexibility to it.
I see. So what shoe recommendations do you have then? No, before we go to that, how about high-heeled shoes? I mean, I try not to wear high-heeled shoes. Maybe once a year, I'm invited to some kind of event, wedding or party, and I always take them off during the wedding dances. Like I'm always barefoot at an event because I just cannot stand, walk, or just be in a high-heeled shoe.
You're not alone, Anna.
I'm not alone, but so many women, like, they're so prideful. They're like, I can't just do anything. I can be the whole day on this. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, who created high heels shoes?
Men.
Men, right? Men. And why was this created? Yeah, this is terrible. So, what could you say about, and I don't mind promoting brands. We're not making money from those brands. If you're comfortable, do you have you have recommendations in the book? Do you want to share recommendations for minimalist shoes?
Yeah, I think before we get there, just do you want to talk about the high heel rehab list?
Let's talk about the high heels first.
Yeah,
and then
we can't leave that topic just yet. We can't leave it just yet.
Okay, I thought you don't want to talk about it. Let's talk about this.
No.
We're getting our heart rates up when you talk about high heels here.
Get a little hot in here. Turn on the fans. It's cultural, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You wear a fancy shoe to a fancy party. And what's fun is Courtney and she approached me about writing this book at a mutual friend's wedding in Mexico. I was wearing a high-heeled shoe, regretting it. And Courtney was wearing a Vivo barefoot jungle boot, if I remember correctly.
That's
Wow.
right.
With a dress. And it was one of those just like, how you have those little windows, those little moments in your life that you'll never forget. And I remember we were at this wedding and we were all glammed up and I'm in my high heels and Courtney's in these boots and she's dancing up a storm. And I'm like, all right, I've seen the messaging, but now I'm seeing it in practice. So I have two sound bites related to high heels. One, stilettos are the new smoking. They are not good for you. We know there are all sorts of health implications, period. However, we understand that sometimes there is a need for a fancy shoe. There are some professions where you have to wear them. We actually interviewed a flight attendant in our book from a major airline that we can't name. We talked about uniform shoes for flight attendants. So we recognize there are times and places where a fancy dress shoe is part of the uniform or part of the cultural norm. If you're going to do that, there are some ways to make healthy choices, and there are some things you can do afterwards. And so the aftercare is what I'm going to hand over to Courtney because we have a whole conversation that we call high heel rehab. It really depends on how much time you're spending in the high heel. And as you said, Anna, you might wear it to part of the event and then take it off for other parts and those sorts of things. That's a first step. But I'll turn it over to Courtney for the other part because this is something, if you take nothing else away from the podcast today, please listen to this moment.
Yeah, when you think about the widest part of the foot, it should be the toes. So if you were to look down at your foot, the widest part of your foot should be your toes. It is the exact opposite when you put that foot into a high heel. They are shoved together and shoved into a high heel. There's really some interesting images on the internet. If you were to Google, what does my foot look like in a high heel? They have x-rays. It's traumatic to me when I see those things, especially for women who have bunions or any type of forefoot pain. So one of the things you want to do when you get home that night, take those heels off and work on splaying your toes. So you can lift up all of your toes. You can work on spreading them, so you would be able to spread your toes. You should be able to see daylight between each of your toes. If you can't do that, take your hand, interlace your fingers in your toes, and start creating space within your toes. This is very, very important. There are nerves that live within each of your toes. And when they are crammed together in a shoe, and then you have your heel that's driving all of your body weight because it's higher than your toe into the ball of your foot, you're going to irritate your nerves. You're going to compromise the function of the forefoot. You're going to compress and decrease the function of the musculature of the foot. So that is very, very important to work on reestablishing the splay within your foot. Melissa has beautiful toe splay. The other thing you need to consider is in a high heel, your heel is significantly higher than the toes. So what do you think that's doing to your calf muscle? It's shortening it.
Wow.
So one of the other things we talk about with the high heel rehab is when you get out of those, you better work on ankle mobility. Stretch your calves. We give plenty of different opportunities and examples. Melissa has her knee close to the wall. She's bending her knee, driving her heel down as she drives the knee forward, and you should feel a stretch in the calf. These types of things can combat what happens when you are wearing a heel for X amount of time. You can see now why if you wore that heel, not just at a wedding, but if you wore that to work every single day for 8 hours a day, or you had extended periods of time, that will literally change the structure of your foot. It's foot binding is what that is.
Wow.
And that's a problem. So, we're not saying don't ever, but what we are saying is be proactive with it. If you choose to do that, know that there will be consequences, so just do something about it. And we've outlined for you over the years and years of practice, seeing women come into our offices with significant amount of pain due to the wrong type of footwear.
Oh my goodness. I think you too have to design a high heel shoe, perhaps, that is for those
I
who
love that
really,
idea. That would be fun.
like a healthier high heel shoe,
It's a healthier option.
healthier.
It's a healthier sugar.
Yes, it's healthier sugar. Exactly. Exactly. No, I am against high heels wholeheartedly, honestly. I own only one pair for those occasions, and I dread wearing them.
Well, you had mentioned different brands also.
Yes.
I think, one of the things that I think Melissa and I also want to encourage is resetting what fashion really is, especially for women. We can still feel very confident in our bodies and dress well, but also choose different footwear. When I first started doing this, there was one company out there that made functional footwear. That was like 15 years ago. Now, there are many brands that make dress shoes you can wear to work. I mean, hundreds of brands that have ballet flats and different types of shoes that are very nice, and you can really get dressed up and look well and also be smart about what you're putting on your feet. There is, as far as different brands, Anya's Reviews is a great website for looking for that type of footwear. On our Gait Happens website, we also have a list of footwear, dress shoes, casual shoes, athletic shoes that are all functional, meaning they respect the anatomy of your foot. So it's nice to have these in your repertoire. You don't have to wear them all the time. But once you start wearing them, I will tell you what my patients always tell me. I'm not going back to my other shoes because this just feels better. So I think there are ways that we can still have the fashion conversation. It's not quite the stiletto look, but it's getting there.
Well, we have to change that.
Yeah.
We have to change that. I think women have to change that. Men are never going to change that. They like us on high heels. And yeah, no, I agree. I am definitely going to look at your website and purchase some shoes for exercise, for other purposes, for every day. How about being barefoot? I love being barefoot, for example, but obviously we can't do many things barefoot. Is it good for us? How much is preferable? What can you say about being barefoot? Do we need to practice that outside on different terrains? Is it good for us?
When you think about what the foot does, it's this beautiful sensory organ, if you will, that adapts to terrain. That's what it was designed to do. Our foot changes shape. And so when you're barefoot, you're getting information to your brain. There's all these receptors when your foot hits the ground, and it's basically telling your body how to move, how to function, how to balance. So whenever you have the opportunity, yes, it is good to put your foot on the ground, but here's the challenge. We live in a world of concrete. We live on man-made surfaces. So that challenges what we can actually do barefoot. But if you have the opportunity to on sand, on grass, even on rocks, to stimulate the receptors on the feet, go for it. If you are new to this conversation, I would be very wise in the amount of time you spend barefoot initially. That's a very big conversation. So I'll tell my patients, at home, take your shoes off, 5 minutes. 5 minutes around the house. Let your foot feel the ground. Let your joints actually move through the range of motion that they were designed to move through. Let your muscles start to activate. See how you feel. And if things are okay, you can start to increase your time. If you go outside, you can wear a minimal shoe with a thin and flexible sole. But if you want to have a little more cushion underneath your sole because you're walking in New York City, for example, you can still keep your foot in its functional position, but there's brands like Ultra Running, Topo Athletic, Notice, these are all listed in the book, where the foot is still in its functional position, but because you're walking on concrete, you have cushion or stack height underneath your foot so that you're more comfortable.
So this shoe is from Ultra. It has the exact criteria Courtney's talking about. It's got the wide toe box, it's 0 drop, so it's flat, but it is cushioned and minimally cushioned. So I can still twist it.
Oh, I see.
But this is a great shoe for a city.
Oh, I see. I see. When you say minimal drop, it's even.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not stacked up like the Hoka that you picked up that has a drop, meaning that the heel is higher than the toe. So this guy is a 0 drop. It's flat.
Oh, I like
just like
that.
like that Adidas you picked up. So your Adidas does have that criteria. It just doesn't have the wide toe box. So we would call that a traditional shoe because of its toe box. But your Adidas is flat, just like this guy. But this is a fabulous shoe for a city.
Yeah. I think people think because this whole maximally cushioned footwear is like the new thing.
I know.
New rage. I think people think they need more cushion than they do. You really don't. You don't need to have 3 inches of cushion underneath the sole of your foot to be comfortable.
Right. I mean, it's gonna hinder your natural strength and all those things that you mentioned. Especially like sometimes I see old people wearing it after a surgery or certain things. And I often wonder, I'm like, is this helpful or like this is not good probably for them? In my neighborhood, I see elderly people with those cushioned shoes, and I'm always suspicious of that somehow.
I have to restrain myself, and I have to bite my tongue when I see that, because there is a time and a place. We talk about this shoe spectrum in the book. If someone who wants to walk longer distances, who has weak feet or who's had a surgery, then there is a time to have that type of shoe with the cushion and potentially the rocker to facilitate their gait. But again, nobody gets a free lunch. You can't wear that type of shoe all the time. You will compromise your balance and increase your fall risk. So there also has to be times when maybe they go for a 10-minute walk and they wear less shoe so that their foot can feel the ground and that they can balance better. So I think having that shoe spectrum, hey, sometimes, okay. Other times, Challenge your body a little bit. It's okay. Make things a little more difficult. This is the environment where your foot and ankle will get stronger. You do not want to lose strength and power as you age, especially at the foot and ankle.
As we get to the end of this conversation, I'm loving this conversation, by the way. I love the book. When I first received it, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it's going to mostly talk about the mental health benefits of walking. It's pleasant, it's nice. You can have conversations with someone. I expected that kind of book, honestly, but this has been so eye-opening, educational, and it could be life-changing. I'm going to change certain habits of mine. I'm going to invest in certain shoes. You convinced me. I was always on your side, but now I'm more. This is a fantastic book, and you two have such energy and passion. Besides the knowledge and the expertise, I love what you bring to the table, your energy and your passion, how Melissa is demonstrating everything for everyone. This is great. What I want to ask you is there anything that I didn't ask about this subject that perhaps I missed or you wanted to impart?
I think walking with community is one of my favorite takeaways from the research studies that we evaluated while we were working on the book and just our actual lived experience of writing it. So Courtney lives in Colorado, I live in Montana, and we spent almost 10 different trips together during the writing process over a year and a half. And we would get stuck on topics. The shoe chapter, we have 2 chapters related to shoes. We could have written an entire book related to shoes. And in fact, Courtney had a secret shoe chapter that she was secretly working on in the background that she didn't share with me because she was, what do I do with all this information I have inside of me? It was a hilarious experience that we had. And when we would get stuck, do you know what we would do? We would say, all right, we got to take a break. Let's go for a walk. Put the dog's leash on and out we would go into the Colorado sunshine, the Colorado snow, the Colorado rain. Sometimes it was windy. There were 4,000 birds. And we would walk and we would walk and we would talk and we would get through those sticky parts. We would get through the parts we disagreed on. I mean, we've been dear best friends for 10 years, and this experience only strengthened our dear friendship and our respect for each other. And so I think that, those of you that are listening that are parents or new parents or, taking care of aging parents or struggling with your teenagers, we cannot overemphasize the benefit of walking with someone you love, walking with someone you're getting to know, walking with someone you're trying to convince to behave themselves, whether that's your kids or your parents. I think that the community aspect of this was something that I just really want to make sure people don't overlook because it is an opportunity to engage in something that sort of forces a shared rhythm when you're walking with another person. Give yourself space to have conversations. And as you said, Anna, I mean, those can be life-changing moments and things you really reflect on fondly. So I'm very grateful that was one of the ways we got through the sticky parts of actually writing a book as dear friends and as business partners. And, a chiropractor and a physical therapist, we have a little bit different training. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye. I'm pretty sure Courtney has now convinced me to stop wearing heels to weddings. I mean, at this point now, I would be embarrassed that I'm not practicing what I preach, right? So I would say that's my takeaway we didn't talk about is just the community aspect and the connecting with others part of it.
Wonderful.
I just cry. This is why sometimes these podcasts, Melissa talks and then I just tear up and cry. So That's what happens. So
the difference of being Italian and being Slavic, right?
Oh, I also love the community aspect of walking. I walk solo every day, but I also walk with a friend, with my family, with my daughter, with my husband alone. Like I walk with different people and I gain different benefits each time. Mm-hmm. When I'm walking alone, when I'm stuck on a problem or when I'm angry, I have difficult emotions. Definitely, I need to walk. I walk and talk to myself. And sometimes even I express my anger while I'm walking in wild nature. And it immediately changes my mood. It just gives me so much mental clarity. I just feel amazing. I see the nature and I forget my own misery, my own struggle. It gives you perspective, literally changes everything. As you walk, your perspective changes. You look at the horizon and your nervous system is at a different state. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful activity. And I'm so excited that you put it in a book and gave this activity its own space that it deserves, you know. It's an underestimated, definitely an important, like you call it, the sixth vital sign, or vitamin W in your book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when you look at it with that and prioritize it, it really does become something so important for your overall longevity and wellness. And that's exactly what we wanted to do with the book. So thank you for kind words. We appreciate that.
Helping us reach more people. And we're excited to be able to have the honor to share this with your audience and, you know, have people just rediscover that this is something that they can try immediately. You know, you could pause this podcast and go do 500 steps and come right back.
Or
that'll be
listen
your first,
to the podcast and
while you're walking.
yeah,
Even better. Yeah.
walking.
I suppose if they have it on their iPhone, they can take us with you. Take us with you on your walk. I love it.
It's good for longevity. Yay. It's good for everything. And it's free. Most of all, it's available.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
Just invest in those shoes that are good for us. And then that's
right.
it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main thing. Well, thank you so much. I am so pleased to have met both of you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
That concludes today's conversation, my dear listener, and I hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Be sure to hit that follow button so you don't miss future episodes, and take a moment to leave a rating and review. It really helps others find the show. I would love to hear your thoughts and takeaways. Join the conversation in the Authentic Parenting Facebook group or visit the contact page at authenticparenting.com/contact to get in touch. Authentic Parenting is an ad-free show, and your donations is what makes this podcast possible. Support the show by visiting authenticparenting.com/support or becoming a patron at patreon.com. Your contributions make it possible for me to continue bringing you weekly episodes. And as always, connect to the present moment, to yourself and your children. Until next week, I am Anna Seewald. Thank you so much for listening. This episode was edited and produced by Aminur. If you need expert support to bring your dream podcast to life, from editing to full production, Aminur can help make it happen. You'll find his link in the show notes.